So you want to be a physician. You want to dedicate your life to the health and well-being of the people around you. It's a noble pursuit. But to get there, you're going to have to get through medical school. And to get there, you're going to have to get past a little hurdle called the MCAT, the Medical College Admissions Test. The MCAT covers the scientific framework and the tools we use to understand the body and the mind, namely physics, chemistry, biology, biochemistry, psychology, sociology, and critical reasoning. The MCAT evaluates not just your raw scientific knowledge, but also your ability to reason and apply that knowledge. It also tests your understanding of basic experimental design and data analysis. These are your medical fundamentals. It is a lot of ground to cover, but the MCAT is a mile wide and an inch deep. With a well-made map, you will find your way around with confidence. I'm here to make sure you don't get lost. I'm Danny, and this is the Map of the MCAT. Let's start at the very beginning. Positive and negative charges. Opposite charges attract and similar charges repel. Simple, right? This basic concept is the foundation of every biochemical reaction happening in your body right now. Electric charges are responsible for the structure and function of atoms and molecules. In fact, all matter, everything physical that exists, is the result of interactions between these electric charges. Electrostatics are the rules of electric forces, which govern the interactions between atoms and molecules. Atoms are made of a positively charged nucleus and negatively charged electrons. The electronic structure of an atom determines its physical and chemical properties. Elements are sorted based on electron structure into the groups and periods of the periodic table and react predictably based on periodic trends. For example, elements on the left side of the periodic table are more likely to donate electrons to elements on the right. Atoms react and combine to form molecules, and we keep track of the reactants and products of a reaction using stoichiometry. So molecules are made up of atoms, which are made of electric charges. And molecules then react to form biomolecules, which are the building blocks of your cells and your organs and your entire body. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We are still in the realm of physics. When electric charges move through a closed loop of wire, they form circuits, which produce magnetic forces. The study of electric and magnetic forces is called electromagnetism. Electrochemistry is the study of how electrons are transferred in chemical reactions. Electric forces are especially relevant for the function of your heart and nervous system, which rely on their ability to generate electric signals. Classical mechanics is the physics of the world around you, the one with gravity and mass, throwing balls and pushing boxes. Specifically tested are translational motion, forces, work, physical equilibrium, and periodic motion. One important concept is the conservation of energy. For example, when the chemical energy of the food you eat becomes the kinetic energy of your muscles in action. Light and sound are ways of transmitting energy through waves. Light can be described based on its properties as both electromagnetic waves and photons. We can model the way light refracts through lenses, like those in our eyes, using geometrical optics. The absorption and emission of electromagnetic waves can be used to analyze chemical compounds and determine their molecular structure. Sound is the longitudinal transmission of pressure waves and is used in ultrasound imaging. Both light and sound contribute to our perception of the world through our senses and facilitate communication and social interaction. Fluids include gases and liquids. Properties of fluids, such as flow and pressure, are critically important in the context of your respiratory and circulatory systems. The most important biological fluid, which makes up roughly 60% of your body weight, is, of course, water. This is physics, the natural phenomenon that underlies our chemistry and biology. Our next stop, chemistry, is the study of molecular interactions, which lays the groundwork for the biological reactions that take place in your body. Our bridge to chemistry is the molecule. Atoms in nature tend to exist as molecules, and molecules react together to form compounds. Reactions can occur covalently when two atoms share electrons or ionically by electron transfer. Properties of molecules include their structure, bond order, polarity, and stereochemistry. Intermolecular forces, including hydrogen bonding and van der Waals forces, determine a compound's physical properties like its boiling point and solubility. Thermodynamics and kinetics are ways of measuring chemical reactions. Thermodynamics measures how much free energy is gained or lost by molecules participating in a reaction, and kinetics measures the rate and mechanism of that reaction. Chemical reactions tend towards a stable state of equilibrium. Catalysts are chemical species that speed up the rate of reaction by decreasing the activation energy of that reaction, but they do not affect its thermodynamics or equilibrium state. Cells in our bodies are constantly undergoing reactions that consume and release energy. This is called bioenergetics. Enzymes are protein catalysts that speed up these biological reactions. Let's talk about water. Water is everywhere in your body, your blood, your tissues, inside and outside your cells. The way biological molecules interact with water, their hydrophilic or hydrophobic nature, can determine their shape and function. Acid-base reactions are loosely defined as the transfer of protons between different molecules. In the presence of water, these reactions affect the concentrations of protons in the solution, the pH level. Chemists use titration to experimentally determine the concentration of an acid or base in solution. Solubility describes how well a substance dissolves in water. Ionic compounds dissolve into charged ions, which can then react in electrochemical cells. The transfer of electrons in an electrochemical reaction is called oxidation reduction, or a redox reaction. These are the three general ways we can think about chemical reactions: thermodynamic kinetic, oxidation reduction, or acid-base. We can then apply these same concepts to the biochemical reactions that take place in our bodies. But before we move on to that, let's look at the methods scientists use to separate and purify compounds based on their molecular properties. A significant portion of the MCAT is based on experimental research design. These experiments use extraction, distillation, chromatography, and electrophoresis in order to separate chemical and biological compounds based on their size, charge, boiling point, polarity, or chemical reactivity. Now that we have a solid physical and chemical foundation beneath our feet, let's get to the really cool stuff: the chemical makeup of life itself. The bridge between chemistry and biochemistry is organic chemistry. Understand the structure, function, and reactivity of the basic functional groups, and you can predict the reactions of more complex biomolecules. The organic groups tested on the MCAT include alkanes, alkenes, alcohols, aldehydes and ketones, carboxylic acids and their derivatives, phenols, and aromatic heterocycles. These functional groups are common among biological molecules like amino acids, sugars, and nucleotides, which polymerize to form the building blocks of biology: proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, and nucleic acids. Each of these plays its own functional role in a biological cell. Let's zoom out for a moment. The biological cell is the fundamental unit of life. From the smallest of single-cell bacteria to the incredible biological machinery of your own body, cells function to support life. This is called cell theory. Eukaryotic cells are highly organized and made up of specialized components with specialized functions. Important organelles include the nucleus, the endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi apparatus, mitochondria, lysosomes, and peroxisomes, which are all housed in the cytoplasm of the cell. Surrounding the cytoplasm is the plasma membrane, which forms a barrier against the rest of the world, and regulates the flow of molecules and ions into and out of the cell. Just like the organs in your body are connected by a skeleton, the organelles in a cell are connected by a cytoskeleton, which provides structure and facilitates transport of materials around the cell. Cells communicate with one another through biosignaling. This is the world of receptors and ion channels and secondary cascades. They then work together to form the tissues that make up our organs. Now that we have some context, let's look at the roles that biomolecules play in the function of cells. Proteins are polymers of amino acids and are the major active unit of cells with a wide range of functions. A protein's shape and function is determined by the order of its amino acid side chains, the chemical properties of those side chains, and the way they interact with water. In a cell, enzymes facilitate biochemical reactions, acting as biological catalysts. In fact, life as we know it would not be possible without enzymes to help speed up biological reactions. The chemical activity of enzymes can be controlled by activation or inhibition. Other types of non-enzymatic proteins include structural proteins, transport proteins, ion channels, and many, many more. Nucleic acids are polymers of nucleotides and are commonly known as DNA and RNA. DNA contains the genetic information of the cell and is contained in chromosomes in the nucleus. Genetic expression describes how genetic code in our DNA is read, transcribed into RNA, then translated or synthesized into proteins. Proteins may then remain in the cell or be secreted out of the cell. A defect in the genetic code may cause a protein to be overexpressed, underexpressed, or completely non-functional. This is the source of many genetic diseases. An error might be due to a mutation or a mistake during DNA replication. This is why DNA repair and regulation are so important. The MCAT will test your understanding of how gene expression is regulated in eukaryotes, like yourself, and prokaryotes, like infectious bacteria. In the lab, using modern biotechnology, we can modify and analyze DNA with techniques like PCR, blotting, and recombination. The energy required to build proteins and maintain homeostasis is produced through metabolic pathways, which describe the process of building or breaking down biological molecules. Complex carbohydrates are polymers of simple sugars, like glucose. Energy from carbohydrate breakdown is captured in the form of ATP. Important glucose pathways include glycolysis, the citric acid cycle, and oxidative phosphorylation. Side pathways include the metabolism of glycogen, lipids, proteins, and nucleotides. These pathways are highly regulated by both allosteric and hormonal control. Protein action, genetic expression, and metabolism. These are the vital biochemical processes that keep your cells alive and functioning. The life cycle of a cell is fundamental to understanding the nature of human life itself. In order for tissue to grow and regenerate, cells must continually divide, forming identical daughter cells in a process called mitosis. Failure to regulate the cell cycle can lead to uncontrollable cell growth. In other words, cancer. But regulated properly, cell division and growth can lead to something beautiful. Formation of new life through reproduction. During reproduction, genetic information from both parents is combined in a single cell that divides many times in order to form a zygote, then an embryo, and then a baby. Throughout this process, cells divide and then differentiate into the cells of your highly specialized organ systems. Through reproduction, your genetic blueprint is passed on to your children. That genetic material is contained within your DNA. Genes separate and are organized into gametes through meiosis and are combined in the process of fertilization. We can use Mendelian principles and genetic analysis to track the inheritance of genes and genetic disorders in a population. The change in the genetic profile of a population or species over the span of many generations is called evolution. Our cells are especially susceptible to infectious disease. Two of the most common sources of infection are bacteria and viruses. To treat these pathogens, we can create medications that targets their specific structural and biological features. To do that, we must know the structure and classification of prokaryotes and viruses, their genetic makeup, as well as their life cycles. A disease may initially target a single group of cells or a single organ system, but its effects can then ripple across the rest of the body. This is because your body is one large, interconnected biological complex. Your organs all function in relation to one another. Everything affects everything. Together, your organ systems make up the physical vessel of your existence on this planet. Your digestive system is how you initially break down the food you eat into biological macromolecules, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. These molecules enter the bloodstream, are filtered by the liver, and transported to other organ systems through your circulatory system. Oxygen from the respiratory system is crucial for energy production, which is especially vital for the function of your muscles. Your muscles and organs are supported by your skeletal system, which forms the structural framework of your body. The cardiovascular system is not the only fluid transport system in your body. Your lymphatic system drains fluid from peripheral tissue and returns it to your bloodstream near the heart. Your lymphatic system is also highly associated with your immune system, which is a collection of cells throughout your body that protect you from infection. Also designed to protect you is your skin, which keeps the inside world in and the outside world out. The waste products of cells exit your system through your excretory system, featuring your kidneys. And your reproductive system is, of course, intimately involved in the formation of new life. The two large-scale communication systems of your body are your nervous system and your endocrine system, which work together to coordinate all your other organs. The endocrine system is a series of glands that secrete hormones, which travel through the bloodstream to target organs and trigger biological reactions. Nerve cells rely on action potentials and neurotransmitters to send electrical signals along nerve pathways. It consists of the peripheral nervous system, which innervates the bones and muscles, and the central nervous system, which includes the spinal cord and the brain. The brain is the most incredible piece of biological machinery that exists. And I'm not just saying that because I am one. Your brain houses your consciousness, memories, knowledge, thoughts, emotions, drives, and desire. Your brain is what makes you, you. We started with simple electrical charges. We saw how they interact to form atoms and molecules and complex biomolecules, the building blocks of cells, which work together to form tissues, organs, a body, and a brain, a living, breathing human being. But we're not done yet. You are more than just the sum of your physical parts. Welcome to the fields of psychology and sociology. This section is about your personal experience of the world, what you sense and perceive, how you think, how you feel, how you behave, how you interact with others. It's about who you are and where you belong, your role and your position in society. And most importantly, it's about how all of these affect your health. Your senses are your gateway to the outside world. You can see these images, hear my voice, taste, smell, and touch the environment around you. That raw input, the light, the sound, is received by sensory receptors around your body, then processed into a perception in your mind. Sensation and perception are both subject to psychological influence. Your cognitive functions are how you then process what you've perceived. In other words, how you think. Right now, you're conscious and your attention is focused on this video. You understand my use of language. This information is hopefully being committed to your long term memory. You can then process, understand, and apply the knowledge you've acquired to solve problems. These are the tools of your cognition or intelligence. Listen closely. The MCAT is extremely difficult and may be the hardest and most important exam you've ever taken. How does that make you feel? What's your emotional response? Anger? Did it stress you out? Your sympathetic nerves are firing, hormones are released, your heart rate and blood pressure spiking, and your blood sugar is rising with far reaching effects across your body. We are constantly moving through and reacting to the world. The way you react to the world impacts your health. So you've sensed the world, you've processed it, and you feel some type of way about it. What's next? You take action. You interact with the world. Your behavior is the complex result of biological, psychological, and social factors. Your behavior as an individual is influenced by a number of factors, including your biology, your nervous and endocrine systems, your genetics. It's also influenced by your personality, level of motivation, and attitude. Your behavior can be healthy or unhealthy. When patterns of behavior interfere with day to day functioning, we call it a psychological disorder. Your behavior is also influenced by your environment, especially by the presence of others. You act differently in a group compared to when you're alone. That's normal. Social norms determine what behaviors are acceptable and not acceptable, and the process of learning what is okay and not okay is called socialization. It starts the day we're born and ends the day we die. We all follow patterns of behavior. The process of changing those patterns is called learning. You might habituate to a constant stimulus or learn to associate a certain sound with a certain action. A change in behavior may be caused by a change in attitude or by watching and observing others. Humans are social creatures. We need to be in touch with others. Social relationships are how we think about ourselves and others, our sense of self, and how we relate to other people. Your personal sense of self is your identity. This is the sum of all the different facets of who you are: your race, gender, social class, achievements, self esteem, your passions, and your hobbies. Your identity forms over your lifetime through your culture and through your personal experiences. Social thinking is about how we perceive other people and how we interpret their behavior. When someone acts a certain way, you attribute their behavior either to their personal disposition or to the situation. Your views of others, whether you like it or not, are shaped by implicit prejudices, biases, and stereotypes. Social interactions are how we communicate with those around us. Social interactions are complex. Basic elements include your role, your social status, and the type of group present. Depending on the situation, you might present yourself to others in a deliberate way. Everyone does it. The way we treat others, our social behaviors, determine the social bonds and connections that we form. When someone is treated differently based on a perceived difference in identity, that's known as discrimination. You may have your close friends or an intimate social circle, but you belong to a larger community as well. On the grand scale, you belong to society. You belong to a culture. Macroscopic social factors influence your health and well being. There are a number of sociological theories that describe social structure, the way a society is organized. These include Marxist conflict theory, symbolic interactionism, functionalism, and others. Your daily life is influenced by social institutions like your family, the government, and the healthcare system. Your life is also affected by your culture, the set of collective beliefs and experiences. The point is that you are only one member of a hugely populated society. The characteristics of a society, the age, gender, and racial makeup of its members, is called its demographics. These demographics can change over time. Society of tomorrow will not look like society of today. Another characteristic of societies, they tend to stratify into layers of socioeconomic class. You fall somewhere in the hierarchy, whether you like it or not. Those of higher socioeconomic class tend to have better access to resources, especially when it comes to healthcare and well being. Social inequality can exist over physical or socioeconomic borders. These contribute to differences in health and healthcare access between different populations. Your position in society affects your relationship with health and medicine. When it comes to your health, your behavior and your place in society is as important to consider as your biology. The biology tells us that you're a collection of electrical impulses organized into complex patterns such that thought and consciousness are produced. You are the sum of your memories, thoughts, actions, and experiences. You can write those experiences down and transmit them to other people. And you can read and understand what other people write. Welcome to the cars section of the MCAT. Can you understand another human being through their writing? Can you empathize with their position, comprehend their arguments, and reason through their logic? As a physician, you will be endlessly incorporating new research, new ideas, and reasoning through symptoms and diagnoses. You will need critical reasoning skills, and a healthy dose of humanities and social sciences will make you a more well-rounded professional. The questions on the car section fall into 3 categories. Foundations of comprehension is about surface level, basic understanding of the text, the main points, and the assumptions that the author makes. You might be asked, what is the central thesis of this text or the meaning of a phrase in context? Reasoning within the text tests your ability to evaluate arguments and make connections between different ideas in the text. You will be asked about the purpose or strength of a piece of evidence in relation to an argument. Reasoning beyond the text introduces a new piece of information and will have you evaluate it in the context of the passage. This could be a new scenario that you have to apply ideas from the passage to, or a new piece of evidence that affects an argument made in the text. Reading comprehension and critical reasoning skills are necessary in every section of the MCAT, not just cars. Knowing the content is not enough. You need to be able to parse through long, dense passages for the relevant information and reason through your knowledge to determine the right answer for every subject and every question. That is the entire map of the MCAT. As you can see, every subject can be considered an extension of the subject it is built on. Humanities is psychology. Psychology is biology. And biology is chemistry. Chemistry is physics. And physics is life.